Well, today I am joined by India White, and she is the founder of Portac. And Portac is an audience intelligence agency, and you guys help brands and agencies understand their audiences on a cultural level. So, yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Really pleased that you took the time to join me. I'm very interested in what we're going to talk about today, and leveraging audience intelligence is absolutely fundamental for today's marketers and PR comms professionals, right?
That's right, especially in this COVID pandemic world where more and more people are online on a regular basis.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think it also helps us to understand a lot more about the influencers and what influences them and the kind of media that they consume, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not really a new way. It's been around for a while, but a great way for us to dive into the data that we have available to us today, to better understand audiences beyond demographics. So beyond what we've been relying on for so long, broad assumptions and predetermined segments, to then understand our audiences through who they truly are. So, I'm a female in my 30s and I'm married, but I don't have children. I do have a dog. But I still get ads for Pampers and stuff like that. So understanding our audiences and being able to communicate with them and reach them and engage them through their passions, interests, and by understanding the culture of the audience segments that exist in our target markets.
Right, got you, got you. So, I mean, brands are always trying to resonate better with their customers, right? So, obviously, the customers need to feel connected and a sense of trust, right, with the companies they buy from. But how do brands get a more of a fundamental understanding of who their customer segments are beyond the demographics and assumptions and these predetermined media segments that you were talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, traditionally, we've relied on market research methods to do that in the past. So to get a better understanding of our markets, which are still valuable, but by the time we are able to do that type of research, a lot has changed. It's still definitely important to talk to our customers and do surveys and do customer discovery to better understand specifically how our customers engage and understand how they use our product or service and benefit from it. But when it comes to what we do at Portac, we leverage audience intelligence software, so like Affinio and Audience, to better understand audiences through their interests. So to explain what those platforms do, just to give a better understanding of what we mean by audience intelligence. Each of those platforms have very powerful algorithms that look at audiences as a whole, so social audiences. And let's use Twitter as an example. So for instance, we could look at the following of a brand's audience or a competitor's audience, and the algorithms will look at every single person that exists within that audience, and then look at who those people follow. So, I only follow things that I'm interested in, and you can make that assumption about everybody out there. And then these algorithms have powerful segmenting or clustering abilities to then group people based on similar following patterns or interest patterns. So what you're left with is custom and unsupervised segments within your audience that are based on passions, their interests, who they trust, all of that stuff. So then you can dive in deep into each of those clusters, understand the celebrities that they follow, the subject matter experts, thought leaders, all of that, the media that they follow, the publications that they read, and who are the community leaders within their own sort of culture and audience, and start to analyze the content that they regularly read and consume and share and how they talk to each other, understand the vernacular that's unique to these audience segments, so that then you can start to build audience or marketing strategies around this fundamental understanding of who your audience is beyond demographics.
Right, right. I've got you. Yeah, it's something I've been sort of studying a little bit as well from a content point of view, because we write a lot of content and create videos and podcasts. So, getting to know an audience and a specific segment is so important, right? But I like the fact that actually these segments are floating. I mean, they're not always the same, are they? I mean, when you delve into it, there's so much data there that actually, I mean, I looked into audience, and I use that tool as well. It helps with a lot of things that we're working on, and it's amazing. There's so much information in there that it becomes so useful for us to actually look at what periodicals and magazines and newspapers and what TV channels people watch, and who they talk to. But what was very interesting when we were just speaking off camera is what you were saying about 10% of the people are quite vocal, right? And there's obviously the 90% of people don't really talk very much. So online, so they will follow a brand, or they'll follow people, or they'll follow topics or hashtags or whatever, but they won't say very much. And we were just saying how it gives us a kick, right, when we can create a piece of content that will make them message the brand, or it will make them message the originator, like the influencer of that, with that piece of content. And I find that very interesting as well. So what more do you know about that?
Yeah, for sure. So it's not unknown, or maybe it's less well known, but we have for years. Like I started my career at Radian 6, which it was a social media listening company. And back then we were, that was a decade ago, and we were teaching people the importance of listening to what people are saying online. Literally calling up some of the world's biggest companies and saying, this is important. You need to be listening to what your people are saying online. Wow. But then over time, you learn that it's really just the vocal minority that's talking. So when you're listening to those audiences, like if a PR crisis erupts, or you're getting feedback about your company or a situation that's happening, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because it is the vocal minority. It's not representative of your entire audience. So the vast majority of your audience are lurkers. They're people that don't engage regularly. They don't communicate with you. They're not commenting on your posts. They're not liking and sharing. They're not freely sharing how much they love their new Yeti mug or whatever it might be. But they are people that could be, your most valuable audience segments. So how do you get to know them? These people that don't volunteer to be heard, don't volunteer to share their opinion. That's where audience intelligence gets really interesting, because we don't need somebody to talk to better understand who they are and what they're passionate about. So because, like I was describing how the segmentation or the clustering happens, it's through the social graph, it's through following patterns, it's through what we've elected to show as far as our interest goes. So the content piece in audience intelligence is almost layered on top. What's most interesting is the interest graph. So learning about people, whether they say something or not, through who they choose to follow and what their interests are. So you can see all of that, media, influencers, et cetera, to inform your marketing strategies without having people to engage. But what you were alluding to there is, audience intelligence allows us to learn more and to sort of connect into that culture and the interests and passions of our audience, to then maybe pull these lurkers out of the dark and get them to engage with our content. If that's a goal, we don't necessarily need to force people out of their natural patterns, but you can create action just through better understanding who those people are